The Caribbean Sea, thousands of miles from the Philippine archipelago, has unexpectedly become the center of a growing storm. Here, the world watches as US-Venezuela tensions escalate, transforming what was once a distant regional dispute into a matter of global concern. The turquoise waters and sun-drenched coasts now serve as the backdrop for a high-stakes geopolitical drama, with the eyes of many nations fixed on every move. American naval deployments near Venezuela, matched by Caracas's rapid military mobilization, have turned the region into a potential flashpoint. Warships cut through the waves, and military convoys rumble along the coast, signaling a readiness for confrontation. The world holds its breath, aware that a single miscalculation could ignite a conflict with consequences far beyond the Caribbean basin. In Manila, these distant events are anything but remote. They trigger urgent debates in government halls and on the streets. As a treaty ally of the United States, the Philippines faces a sobering question. Could it be drawn into a conflict that began half a world away, a conflict not of its own making? The possibility stirs anxiety and forces leaders to weigh the costs of alliance against the risks of entanglement. The alliance with the U.S., long seen as a cornerstone of Philippine security, especially in the contested waters of the West Philippine Sea, now presents a complex dilemma. How can the Philippines honor its commitments to its most powerful ally without sacrificing its sovereignty or being swept up as a pawn in a rivalry between great powers? The stakes are high, and every decision carries weighty implications for the nation's future. Every move by Philippine leaders is now under intense scrutiny, both at home and abroad. The press dissects official statements, and the public watches for any sign of Manila taking sides. The government's policy of non-intervention and independent foreign relations is put to the test, as leaders strive to balance national interests with the expectations of allies and the demands of a rapidly changing world. This crisis compels the Philippines to confront difficult questions about its identity and role on the world stage. What does it truly mean to be an ally in an era of shifting alliances and unpredictable threats? Where is the line between partnership and entanglement, and how can a nation protect its sovereignty while honoring its commitments? As the world watches, Manila must navigate these turbulent waters with wisdom and resolve. The Philippines' strategic dilemma is clear and deeply rooted in its history and geography. As an archipelago at the crossroads of Asia, the country has long been shaped by external powers and shifting alliances. Today, it faces a critical question: how to balance the enduring security benefits of its alliance with the United States against the growing desire for genuine national autonomy and self-determination. This balancing act is not just about military hardware or treaties. It's about the Philippines' vision for its own future. The U.S. alliance offers a powerful security umbrella, but it also raises concerns about sovereignty and the risk of being entangled in conflicts that may not serve Philippine interests. The 1951 Mutual Defense Treaty, a cornerstone of this relationship, provides access to advanced military resources and a sense of security against external threats. Yet, it also stirs anxieties among Filipinos about the possibility of being drawn into America's global rivalries, especially as tensions rise in regions far from home. The US-Venezuela standoff is just one example that highlights this tension. Should the Philippines be expected to provide support for a conflict with no direct benefit to its people or its national interests? Such scenarios force Filipino leaders to weigh alliance obligations against the imperative to protect their own citizens. At the same time, the Philippines must nurture its U.S. ties for security, especially in the contested waters of the West Philippine Sea, where external threats are real and immediate. But leaders are also determined to assert that Philippine policy is made in Manila, not dictated from Washington. This means participating in joint military exercises and issuing diplomatic statements, but always with careful attention to the limits set by treaties and the country's own interests. Every move is calculated to maximize security while preserving independence. The real test for the Philippines is whether it can leverage its alliance for defense and development without compromising its sovereignty or becoming overly dependent on any single power. This challenge requires strategic vision, diplomatic skill, and a clear sense of national identity. Ultimately, the answer to this dilemma will help define the Philippines' identity in the 21st century. Will it remain a pivot state, caught between great powers, or emerge as a truly independent middle power, charting its own course in a complex world? The Philippines' predicament mirrors that of many smaller states caught in great power competition. The US, China, and Russia vie for influence, using economic incentives, security assurances, and diplomatic pressure. For Manila, aligning too closely with one, power risks economic or diplomatic backlash from others, especially with China as its top trading partner. The US-Venezuela crisis could complicate the Philippines' delicate balancing act in its own region. The strategy: maximize maneuverability, diversify partnerships, and champion multilateralism through ASEAN and the UN. The goal is to avoid being a pawn, using its strategic value to advance national interests. For the Philippines, resisting the squeeze is about survival and agency. Navigating this landscape is the new normal for middle powers. The Philippines' aversion to foreign entanglements is rooted in its colonial past. Centuries under Spain and the US fostered a fierce desire for independence and suspicion of subservience. The devastation of World War II and decades of US military bases left deep marks, fueling nationalist calls for sovereignty. The 1991 Senate vote to remove US bases was a defining assertion of independence, despite economic costs. This history shapes today's cautious approach to alliances and the constitutional renunciation of war as policy. The lesson's superpower interests rarely align with those of smaller nations. This hard-won wisdom underpins the Philippines' stance of non-entanglement. History has shaped the Philippines' pragmatic, independent foreign policy, not isolationist, but flexible and interest-driven. Manila seeks to be a friend to all, enemy to none, engaging the US, China, Russia, and others without permanent alignment. ASEAN centrality and multilateralism buffer against great power pressure, especially in disputes like the West Philippine Sea. Militarily, the focus is on credible self-defense and modernization, reducing over-reliance on any ally. The US-Venezuela crisis shows this in action. Manila avoids inflammatory moves, signaling it won't be drawn into distant conflicts. To truly understand the Philippines' approach to international security, it's essential to look closely at its foundational defense agreements with the United States, most notably, the Mutual Defense Treaty, or MDT, and the Visiting Forces Agreement, known as the VFA. These pacts are at the heart of the Philippines' non-interventionist stance, shaping how the country navigates its alliances and obligations on the global stage. The MDT, signed in 1951, is a cornerstone of the alliance, but its obligations are not unlimited. Its scope is specifically confined to the Pacific area, meaning that if a conflict erupts in the Caribbean or another distant region, the treaty does not require the Philippines to get involved. This geographic limitation is a deliberate safeguard, ensuring that the Philippines is not automatically drawn into every conflict involving the US. Furthermore, the MDT stipulates that any response must be in accordance with each country's constitutional processes. This means that military support is not automatic or unconditional. Both nations retain the right to decide how to respond based on their own laws and political considerations. This clause is crucial, as it respects the sovereignty and democratic processes of both countries. The VFA and the Enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement, or EDCA, further deepen military cooperation, allowing for joint exercises, training, and rapid disaster response. However, these agreements stop short of obligating the Philippines to participate in US-led military actions outside its own territory or interests. Instead, they focus on capacity building, humanitarian assistance, and regional security. At their core, these agreements are designed to bolster the Philippines' own defense capabilities, ensuring the country can protect itself and respond to regional threats, without being entangled in conflicts that do not directly affect its national interests. The legal boundaries set by these treaties empower Manila to make independent decisions, such as declining involvement in crises like a hypothetical US-Venezuela conflict, all without violating the spirit or letter of its alliance with Washington. These carefully crafted boundaries are intentional, preserving the sovereignty and decision-making power of both nations, and ensuring that cooperation is always a matter of mutual consent. Ultimately, this framework allows the Philippines to enjoy the benefits of a strong alliance, such as security assistance and disaster relief, while maintaining the autonomy to chart its own course in international affairs. Despite legal and historical grounds for non-intervention, the Philippines faces constant external and internal pressures. The US expects solidarity, sometimes seeking diplomatic or symbolic support in international forums. Domestic voices argue that supporting the US abroad could secure American backing in the West Philippine Sea, creating political pressure. Meanwhile, Venezuela and its allies offer economic partnerships, tempting Manila to shift its stance. The challenge: maintain open channels with all, without being co-opted by any. Philippine diplomacy must skillfully say no, framing non-entanglement as a principled, interest-based stand. By navigating these pressures, the Philippines asserts itself as an independent actor, not a passive follower. Amid US-Venezuela tensions, the Philippine government's response is clear and consistent: non-intervention. Through measured statements, officials emphasize peaceful resolution, international law, and respect for sovereignty, never taking sides. The Department of Foreign Affairs urges restraint and dialogue, while the military focuses on defending Philippine territory, not foreign adventures. These messages reassure the US of alliance limits, signal neutrality to Venezuela, and assure Filipinos of national safety. The unified stance builds a diplomatic firewall, shielding the country from external shockwaves. Manila's approach reaffirms its commitment to sovereignty and an independent path. The armed forces of the Philippines, AFP, are focused on domestic and regional security, not distant conflicts. Internal threats, disaster response, and defending the West Philippine Sea consume the AFP's resources and attention. Modernization efforts target maritime defense and deterrence, not power projection abroad. Diverting assets to the Caribbean would undermine national security and leave the home front vulnerable. The risks of proxy wars, resource drain, retaliation, diplomatic fallout are too high. The AFP's refusal to join the US-Venezuela conflict is a strategic choice to fulfill its constitutional duty, securing Philippine sovereignty and territory.